What is up, guys? Welcome back to Fight Night Central. Zach and Austin here. We are going to break down UFC on ESPN 2, aka UFC Philadelphia, aka Edson Barboza versus Justin Gaethje. And we're going to break down all of the fights on the main card, and we're going to highlight a few of the fighters you might want to pay attention to on the prelims.
Yep. We'll start with the very first fight of the night. Mark De La Rosa's fighting on it.
Yep.
I don't really know a whole lot about him.
Yeah, but for those of you guys that watch Tough, I forget what season she was on, but Montana De La Rosa, who is a female 125 fighter, she's had 2-3 fights in the UFC. This is her husband, and this is his first UFC fight.
Yep. After that, also on the early portion of the prelims, Ray Borg's fighting. A guy that contended for the flyweight title not long ago. He's been off for a while because of his
eye. Well, his son and his eye.
But most of it's been his son's health problems. So he's getting back in there against a guy in Kyler Phillips making his UFC debut also. So that should be a fun early one. The fight immediately following that is Kevin Holland, who he only has, I think, 2 or 3 UFC fights. 2. But he's put on a show in both of them. He's looked like somebody that could potentially, if he puts everything together, could go on a run in the middleweight division.
And then one of the last fights on the prelims of Ross Pearson versus Desmond Green should be an absolute banger of a fight. These guys aren't afraid of brawls, aren't afraid of throwing hands, and so I think that one, if you're really looking for a barn burner or one that has not a whole lot of name power it's been a long time since Ross Pearson's been at the top of the division,
right.
But if you're looking for just a fighter's fight and a really good, enjoyable scrap, I would definitely tune in and check out that one. So.
Yep. And then, so we'll dive right into the main card then.
Yep.
Starting off with Shaman Moraes and Sodiq Yusuff. Sodiq Yusuff, he's got 1 fight in the UFC.
Yep.
Quick knockout of Suman Mokhtarian.
Mm-hmm.
He looked super impressive. Shaman has 3 fights in the UFC. He's 2-1 in those fights. His only loss coming to Zabit. His last fight, he beat Julio Arce in a close fight. That was a good scrap. So that's a good way to kick off your main card especially on a ESPN broadcast.
Yeah.
Good way to suck in some new fans.
Yeah, and so for this one, I think what might be the difference maker, at least for me, is the fact that Shaman's been around a little bit longer in the sense of if you look at his record and guys that he's fought Marlon Moraes, who is most likely going to be fighting for the Open 135 belt here relatively soon. He fought Zabit, he fought Arce, so he's fought guys that are contenders and that are renowned fighters in that division, whereas Sadiq's coming in a little bit new. So I think if Shaman can just utilize all the different trainings and things that he's had and the experience he's had with these past fights, I think he should be able to take this fight. I don't know if he'll finish this fight. I see him winning via decision, but I think he can take it.
Yep. I think along similar lines. Moraes has been in the bigger profile fights. He's also a little bit more of a counter striker. So I look for him to pick his spots a little more early. Sadiq, coming off the big knockout win, may come out headhunting, trying to put on another show, true. Wear himself out. So I've got Moraes by 2nd round KO. I think that Sadiq wears himself out. Moraes just kind of picks his spots, and then in the 2nd round kind of pours it on a little bit and finishes them. So shame on Moraes for both of us. Yeah, and in the next fight, I think experience is going to take an even bigger role, or be an even bigger factor, with Paul Craig versus Kennedy. And I'm going to guess at his last name one time and say Nzechukwu, but I'm going to just call him Kennedy for the rest of this. He's had 1 fight in the Contender Series, so not even the official UFC, 1 fight in the Contender Series. He looked good. He won via decision. But at the end, in his interview, he said that
kind of being part of the UFC with these lights and cameras and everything, he chalked the fact that he didn't get a finish up to that. It was just something to get used to. And I think when you're fighting in a full arena, not just in a small room with 50 or so people, and you're in a packed arena with a lot more lights and a lot more cameras on you, if that plays any sort of role into how he fights, I think that Paul Craig should be able to take this one pretty easily. Now, granted, Kennedy did show a lot of skill in the Contender Series, but he might have a lot going on in his head and not quite be focusing as much on the fight. And so for that reason, I'm going to take Paul Craig in this.
Okay. I'm going to go opposite of you. I watched that Kennedy fight. He looked super impressive. He has all of the physical traits to be a star at 205. My big reasoning, though, for going with Kennedy is I have not been impressed at all with Paul Craig in the UFC. I think he has maybe 1, maybe 2 wins there, and I know at least if he only has 1, that win came by last second triangle choke he threw up at the end of the fight and just managed to get it. So I think I've seen him just be physically dominated by guys that aren't even really contenders at 205. So I think Kennedy just physically, I think he doesn't even really have to put it together for this fight. I think that he just his physical gifts will be enough to get him through. Yeah.
Fair enough. And now on to one of kind of the quote-unquote classic fights where you have Karolina versus Karate Hottie in the striker versus grappler. So I know I'm leaning towards... Now, I think this one will be a good fight. I think this will be a close fight. Michelle has been wanting to work her way up the ranks to get to that belt. She wants to be the first mother champion in the UFC. And so beating Karolina would be a huge, step up in getting towards a title shot.
Yep.
And so I think she has the skills to do it too. Karolina being someone that's going to want to stand a lot more, and she's not a whole lot bigger than Michelle. I know, at least when I envision the two, Karolina is a lot lankier looking, whereas Michelle looks a lot more compact.
Yeah.
So she kind of gives the optical illusion of being a much longer fighter, but there's not much of a reach advantage.
2 inches.
They're the same height. So for that reason, I think that Michelle will be able to close the distance, and if she can take her down, she's going to take that fight. The only thing is if Karolina has a really good takedown defense, if she's really been planning her whole fight camp just around avoiding the takedown, and she can keep it on the feet, I think she will have the better hands than Michelle. So that's the X factor in that. But if Karate can dictate where the fight goes, I think she takes it.
Yeah. You look at Michelle Waterson's history just in the UFC. The people that have given her problems have been the power wrestlers, people that can dictate where the fight's going to take place, keep her on her back, and kind of keep her away from her game.
Yep.
That's not really Karolina's game. She's gonna stand and strike with you. She doesn't really fight at range well. Granted, in a lot of her fights, I don't think she's really had the reach advantage, but she likes to do a lot of her work from that Muay Thai plum clinch. So, that could very well play a little bit into Michelle maybe getting a throw or something. I just think that Karolina's fight style isn't the style that really gives Michelle Waterson trouble. So I've got her taking it by a decision. Whether that's by grounding her or just standing and trading.
Yeah.
I picture Karate Hottie taking this fight.
Yeah, and so I know we've chatted a tiny bit about this next night. We're actually super excited for Emmett versus Johnson.
Yeah.
I'll let you start off on that. We have different views on how we see the fight going, and then so I'll let you start off with your opinion on this one.
Okay. Michael Johnson has not been... granted, both of these guys' sample sizes at featherweight aren't great.
Yeah.
It's very limited. Emmett has 2 fights. I think Michael Johnson has 3, maybe 4. And I think he only has 1 win in the division, and that's against Artem Lobov. And it wasn't even a finish. It was a unanimous decision. So, Emmett's... I think we're both in agreement. Emmett has the power advantage.
Yep, for sure.
Michael Johnson probably has the better gas tank, though.
And probably speed.
Yeah.
Johnson usually can put some quickness on those punches.
So, I mean, it's really going to come down to, can Johnson survive the early onslaught? And I don't know if he can. I mean, he only has one knockout loss, but that was to Gaethje. Like, we've seen him get clipped by his power guys, and especially if he gets comfortable early, his defense gets kind of lax. So say he comes in, he's tagging up Emmett a little bit, then Emmett just comes with that fucking right haymaker and turns the fight on its head. Stats-wise, Michael Johnson looks a lot better everywhere. I mean, strikes landed, strikes absorbed, they're close. But Michael Johnson's got a better takedown defense. Emmett doesn't really use his wrestling a whole lot. But, I mean, that's still... That's kind of the wild card in this, for me, would be Emmett does have a wrestling background. He fights at alpha male, so you know he can wrestle. Michael Johnson has, of his 13 career losses, 18 of them have come by submission. Or 8, not 18. Makes more sense. Like, you just can't have more submission losses than career losses.
It's pretty impressive. That is an impressive stat.
13 career losses, 8 have come by submission. So, if Emmett can get it to the ground, he could take Johnson into some deep water that he's not ready for. So, I have Emmett. I just have that gut feeling that he's gonna either catch him early or take him down and make him work.
Yep. And so for me, the way I see this fight going is that I think that weight cut, now granted, both of these guys I think have fought at 155 in the past and probably would feel more comfortable at 55. But I think for me, the guy that struggles to make this weight more is Emmett. Granted, he only missed weight once, and that was because he was fighting Lamas on short notice. But I think he's definitely the bigger, stronger, more powerful guy. And so I think because that takes a little more out of him when he cuts all the way down to 45. And he got finished by Stevens. Stevens is probably the hardest hitting 145er out there.
Yeah.
But granted, I think that Johnson is very technical in his strike, and I think he's very fast. So with that, I think that as the fight goes on towards the end of the second or maybe into the third round, Emmett's going to be a little bit more tired. Being the stronger guy, when he throws punches, is going to be a little bit more behind it. Each time it's going to chip away at that cardio. And so I think that Michael Johnson's going to be able to land a quick left hand in there at least some point in the later half of the second round or maybe early in the third. And so for that reason, I'm actually going to give it to Johnson.
That. On to the next one, which I'm kind of surprised this is the co-main event over Emmett and Michael Johnson, to be honest.
Agreed.
We got David Branch and, is it Jack Hermansson or Hermansson?
I was going to say Hermansson.
Yeah.
But we'll have to... I don't remember the last time Joe Rogan pronounced it.
Yeah.
It's usually my go-to guy on the whole how things are enunciated. And I don't remember how he says it. But.
Yeah. But you can start this one.
So, for this, and I know you'll talk about the stats, the big difference to me in these guys is just their fight style. Where Hermansson kind of seems like a headhunter, like I'm going to chase you down and wear you down and throw strikes the entire time I'm in this fight. Whereas Branch is a very stay on the outside, pick my shots, fight you at a very slow pace kind of a guy, counter striker, not going to do a whole lot to put himself out there at first.
Right. And he likes to utilize that jiu-jitsu a little bit.
And so, in a different division, but I guess the way that I see this fight going in my head is very similar to Ponzinibbio versus Perry, that Perry wanted to chase Ponzinibbio down and just beat the shit out of him, and Ponzinibbio just literally stayed on the outside, ran away from him, landed a couple shots, and did that. And so that's not a fight that's not what I want to see happen in this fight, but I think that's what's going to happen in this, especially with Branch recently getting destroyed by Cannonier. I think he's going to be a lot more mindful about going in there and trading shots with a guy who's really good at throwing punches. So I think because of that, Branch is going to take this really slow, just, pick his shots here and there and try to avoid any of Hermansson's shots. So I think that Branch is going to take a decision, and I think it might be potentially a slower fight.
I'm gonna disagree with you again. I think, just looking at the stats, Branch is 37 years old. He has not looked super impressive since coming back to the UFC. And looking at the stats, Hermansson, Jack lands almost 5 strikes a minute to David Branch's 1.6. Jack absorbs less strikes than Branch does per minute, and Branch's takedown, like his wrestling, just I don't think it's good enough to negate that fact. He only lands 33% of his takedowns, and Jack defends 73%. So they're the same height. There's a half-inch reach advantage for Branch. So everything is shaping up to me that Jack's going to go high output, piece him up. Branch at 37 after that knockout to Cannonier, that might be, who knows if what we're going to get. That could be the end of the line as far as
how far he can go in that.
If he can eat those big shots anymore. Yep. So I've got Jack by first round knockout. I think he's going to come out. He's going to land something heavy early and put him out.
Yeah. Well, that would be a much more exciting fight to watch.
Yeah. I think he's going to announce himself to the rankings of middleweight.
But speaking of exciting, this main event.
Battle of the leg kicks.
Psyched. If you want to talk two of the nastiest I think top 3 in terms of nastiest leg kickers, you have Vintage Aldo. He doesn't do it as much, but Vintage Aldo was nasty.
Yeah.
And then you have Edson and Gaethje. Some of the guys, when you watch when they leg kick someone, and especially, I've watched Edson fight at least twice live now, and those leg kicks are so fast that literally all you hear is a...
Yeah, you don't even see it. You hear the impact. That's it.
So you have 2 guys that love to strike. You have a very fancy technical striker in Edson, and you have an absolute brawler in Gaethje.
Yep.
And so I literally cannot wait to watch this fight. This is a fight, literally, if people that weren't even UFC fans or MMA fans would just tune in and watch this fight, I think they could really sell a lot of people on the UFC solely because I think this one's going to be insane.
Oh, yeah. I agree 100%. This is, without a doubt, should be your fight of the night.
Yes.
There's almost no way that this doesn't live up to the hype.
Yep.
I've never seen a fight where I've gone either way, this could end with a leg kick.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
And it just speaks to the power both of these guys carry in their legs, not to mention their hands. Gaethje's probably got a little more power in his hands than Barboza does, but he also likes to brawl a little bit more, and I think that's going to be what this fight comes down to is, can Gaethje pull Barboza into that brawl?
Yep.
If Barboza stays disciplined, I don't think there's any reason he shouldn't win this fight.
Yep.
Unless on the off chance Gaethje, for the first time in his career, decides to use his high wrestling pedigree that you never see.
True.
Which it depends on what Gaethje wants. If he wants to put on a show, you're not going to see
Which
that.
he usually does, so...
Yeah. I highly doubt that he's not
He's
going to
play it safe and just go for a takedown.
But if he's trying to get to a title shot after watching Edson against Khabib and Kevin Lee, then he might go that route. Again, I doubt it. There's almost no way this isn't your fight of the night.
Yep.
So the way I see this going is Edson's not going to fall into that brawl. He's going to stay technical.
Yep.
He's going to land body shots. He's going to land head or leg kicks. And then I think he's going to catch. I think Gaethje's going to wear down quick, and then Barboza's going to land that head kick, whether it's a spinning heel kick, a wheel kick, whether it's just a regular fucking roundhouse. I think that I just envision him landing a head kick in the third, fourth round, and ending the fight.
Yeah. And so I'll definitely agree with you that I don't see it going the full length. When you look at some of these guys' performances, like when Gaethje fought Eddie Alvarez, that fight was an absolute banger. Those guys were throwing shots, and you could tell. I mean, when you get into a war like that, you get tired. Like, I don't care how good your cardio is, you're gonna be exhausted. And Eddie did a really good job of working the body in that. I think they both did a pretty good job of that. But you could tell that Gaethje was landing leg kicks, and Eddie was kind of trying to hit him in the body. He was landing a lot of good shots in general. And then when you looked at Barboza when he fought Hooker, Barboza did look at times to be tired earlier in that fight. Now, when you're throwing a lot of fancy techniques, wheel kicks, flying knees, things of that nature, that can take a lot of your energy as well. With that being said, I think that Edson hasn't really had an issue of cardio in the past, whereas Gaethje throws so many punches, it's inevitable that towards the end of the fight, he's going to be tired.
Yeah, with Gaethje, we haven't seen a fight where he hasn't been gassed.
Yeah, so I think that will definitely play a role in it. So I think that I don't see it going as late as the fourth. I think it'll be done by the third. I just am unsure if it'll happen in the second or the third. Just for a fight fan, I'm hoping that it makes it to a third round, just because I think every second this fight goes on is
I'm not opposed to this going to a decision.
Yeah, I just don't think it will.
Right.
If it does, they're going to have to cart both guys off.
Oh, yeah.
One, they won't be able to walk off on their own until they'll be too tired to do anything. So, for me, I think that Gaethje will get a little bit too tired in that third round, and I think Barboza, granted, if Gaethje just tries to come in and throw a couple of flurry punches or something, I think that there's going to be an opening either for a flying knee, for one of his fancy kicks that he can pull off. And once you're so tired, you saw it in that Eddie fight, he ate so many punches that it just took one to clip him. You know, he ate so many big ones, you just get so tired that one good shot can really put you out, and I think that is what's going to happen. I'm going to say third round KO for my boy Edson Barboza. Not to mention, I am a little bit biased. I like both of these fighters, but Edson Barboza has been one of my favorite fighters for a while now. So, Team Turtle until I die.
Yeah. I've got Barboza KO round 4.
Yo!
They're just not... I just think technique wins out here. Edson preserves his gas tank better, and I think that's what this one comes down to. Unless the off chance of the wrestling.
Yeah.
Which Gaethje just doesn't strike me as that kind of fighter.
Which I pray I don't see.
Yeah, I'm going to be super disappointed. With as hyped as I am for this fight, I'm going to be super disappointed if this turns into Ngannou Derek Lewis. Or Rampage.
Or if it turns into Stipe and Ngannou, and then Gaethje just takes him down and just lays on him. So.
Yep. But for sure, if nothing else, if you have time, tune in for that fight.
Facts.
Very strong early contender for Fight of the Year.
Yep. So, thank you guys for watching this. Please, we want to know what you guys think. So, comment below. Let us know who it is that you think is going to win each of these fights, what you think about the videos, things you would like us to make videos on. We'd appreciate any sort of feedback. And as well, we have Facebook and Twitter, so we would like to see, we want to see what do you guys think of this fight card? Who do you think is going to fight on this fight card?
Yeah.
What fights would you like to see in the future? All of these conversations, what we would love to have with other MMA fans. So be sure to go out, follow us, Fight Night Central on Facebook, FNC_MMA on Twitter. We'd love to interact with you guys.
Yep.
If you did like the video, throw a like on there, sub if you want to see more of these videos, and we'll see you in the next fight prediction, guys.
Yep. Share with your friends.
Yeah.